How about that cigar?
How about that cigar?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Drew Estate Cigar Studios for episode 162 of How About That Cigar Live. Guys, thank you so much for joining us live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and for those of you listening after the fact on the audio podcast, guys, thank you so much for listening while you drive down the road or work out, whatever it is you do when you listen to your favorite audio podcast. Thanks for making us a part of that. And we are here, like I said, in the beautiful Drew Estate Cigar Studios. And Drew Estate has revealed the secret identity of the mystery cigar inside the latest Freestyle Live event pack. That is the all-new Nica Rustica Adobe, the second expression in Drew Estate's value-priced Nica Rustica line. The Nica Rustica brand is Drew Estate's homage and tribute to Esteli, Nicaragua. The Nica Rustica Adobe will be available in a 6x52 Toro, 5x54 Robusto, and a 6x60 Gordo, all presented in 25-count boxes while retaining many of the same characteristics as the Connecticut broadleaf expression. Nica Rustica Adobe is the spicier version using a Habano wrapper, Brazilian binder, and Nicaraguan filler tobaccos from Esteli and Jalapa. Unpolished and unrefined, Nica Rustica Adobe is a medium to full-bodied cigar that offers loads of spice with a bold and very long finish. The perfect companion for adventurous cigar buffs. Nica Rustica Adobe will be available for regular distribution to all retailers beginning in August. For more info, please visit drewestate.com. I just had a little puberty moment there. Please visit. Please visit. That was
Smells
fun.
like feet.
I think scotch will help that a little bit. So cheers.
Yep. Back to OG G Rob tonight.
I like your hat, by the way.
It's my damn hat.
Very classy.
I believe you were with me when I got this hat.
I was.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just got to tell a story. This last week, I had the honor of going through the Midwest with Henderson Ventura. It was fantastic. I detailed my car. I looked at how much it would be to detail the interior of my car, and stupid prices.
Yeah.
But, you know, they take out the seat, you know, whatever. So I was like, I'll just do it myself. So I do it. I pick up Henderson from the airport, and then I was like, what is that? And I couldn't figure it out. And so then we came here and we did the podcast.
Yeah.
Right from here. And then I got in the car after the podcast. I was like, dude, no, there's something. So I looked under my seat, and one of my kids,
oh no,
had left a chocolate milk bottle that was ballooned. And for days, I was working on trying to get that smell out, and I was watching these videos. And so I finally got this baking soda situation. You know, I saw, you know, it's the best way to get spoiled milk smell out of your vehicle.
That's
and so
the worst.
Big. And so the day after that, I was like, oh, finally it's gone. And then Henderson looks at me and was like, it's not gone. Like, well, clearly he has the better nose.
Yeah. He's the cigar blender, so he knows what. Yeah, that sucks. Is it still kind of?
No, we finally
okay.
The next day, because I did another treatment, and then he was like, yeah.
Okay. So the just briefly, we talk about the little sport going on. So right now, as we speak, Garrett's watching NBA playoffs, NBA finals. Who's up right now?
Actually, Golden State has a 10-point lead.
Golden State 10 point. Okay, well, it's early, right?
It is early.
Yeah, it's early.
Yeah.
So the Twins, I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of injuries. We have a lot of backup players, but we end up going back and forth with the Yankees.
Yeah.
They blow us out, and then we blow them out, and then we end up losing a close one. Well, a high scoring game.
Good at blowing.
Yes. And then yesterday, we got shut out by the Rays yesterday. Shut out by the Rays. Yeah. How does that, on what planet does that, do you
Tampa
get
Bay
shut
Rays?
out?
Tampa Bay? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what happened, but I don't know. And the Stanley Cup final is finally set to start.
Yeah. And I really liked your take on it on Eric Guttormson's post that the Avs have had a lot of time to rest, which, if you think about it, that's not always a great thing.
It's not always
rhythm, and that's a lot.
It is. And this is, I cannot remember the last time a team had this long of a rest. I mean, because it just seemed like
this side of the bracket,
the Avs blew everybody out.
Yeah.
They were four, they swept
the light. No. I don't remember that side of the back.
The last team they faced, I feel bad. I can't remember right now, but anyway, they had just had short series for the most part across the board. And then, on the other side of the bracket, they're taking forever. They're having 6 and 7 game series. So it'll be fun to watch. I want the Avs to win because, they're in our division.
Yeah.
And they, I have a soft spot for them because, our friends from Cigar Dojo being from Denver,
100% with
have
you.
a soft spot for them. So, and so Wednesday night, that's Stanley Cup final starts. Should be a great series. Looking forward to it. So we will, keep you guys posted. And, football, it's
Oilers
still two Oilers.
They swept the Oilers. Avs.
Thank you. Yes. Edmonton. Yes.
Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. It'll be a fun series to watch. But we have a lot of fun coming on our show tonight on episode 162.
So many things.
There's, as you guys know, we're big proponents of cigar advocacy here at How About That Cigar and cigar education.
Yes.
And, the guy we have on the show tonight really has the inside scoop on what's going on with the FDA, cigar advocacy, and a lot of other things we're going to talk about. So let's bring our special guest on. And as always, on How About That Cigar Live, special guests are brought to us by our friends at Corona Cigar Company. Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, the internet's largest and easiest to use virtual cigar store. Corona Cigar Company offers you the finest handmade cigars, humidors, and cigar accessories at the absolute lowest possible price. You'll also find unique and limited cigars containing Florida sun-grown tobacco. As a proud American, president and founder of Corona Cigar Company, Jeff Borshowitz, believed it was possible to bring cigar tobacco farming back to Florida. At Corona Cigar Company and coronacigar.com, you'll find the best selection anywhere in the world of cigars containing this special Florida sun-grown tobacco. If you live in Florida or are just visiting, be sure to visit any of the great Corona Cigar locations in downtown Orlando, Sand Lake, Lake Mary, and also the Davidoff of Geneva Lounge in Tampa. For more info on all of that, please visit coronacigar.com and floridasungrown.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please put your hands together and welcome to episode 162 of How About That Cigar Live from the Premium Cigar Association, Josh Habursky. Welcome back to the show, brother. How are you?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Doing well, man.
Feels like a family reunion. We're back.
It does.
I know. We're back. We're back. So before we jump into all the great stuff we have to talk about tonight, let us know, Josh, where you're broadcasting from and what you are smoking and drinking along with us.
So I am having a San Pellegrino. I'll start with the least interesting thing first. And I am smoking an El Politico. I think it's El Politico night, which is the cigar that I worked on with Luciano, my first cigar. And I am broadcasting live from Erie, Pennsylvania, my hometown. I'm here this week working remotely. I had to endure a 6-hour listening session with the Food and Drug Administration about the flavor rule this morning. So I was past overdue for a nice cigar tonight.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, and we will get into some of those, I'm sure, amazing details that came from that session.
But I'm a little jealous because you guys have the El Politico fired up.
Yeah, so both.
So I'm going to get one fired up too.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do this. All right. When lighting your cigar, it is important to be patient, pay close attention to detail, and focus on the tobacco. In the same way, Steve Saka brings those same qualities to the ultra premium cigars of Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Patience and close attention and focus on the tobacco are the qualities that Saka and Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust have become known for. From Sober Mesa to Umbagog, Dunbarton has a blend that will fit your palate, your mood, and any occasion. Visit dunbartoncigars.com to learn more. And for those asking about the El Politico cigar, I know it's been a long tease and, all of that. We will get to some of those details in the show. And we've got some exciting things happening with that cigar, but we also have other cigar news. So, Matt, what do we want to talk about first? Do you want to hit PCA first, since that's right around the corner?
I think.
Or do you want to talk cigars first?
I think let's talk cigars first.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's talk cigars first, and then we'll talk some of the big regulatory stuff. Like Josh said, he was on a call with the FDA for a long time today, and we definitely want to hit on that. And
Absolutely.
then we'll finish up with upcoming trade show stuff.
Very cool. All right, so Josh, the El Politico. It is a project that has been, a couple years in the making. We finally have got cigars. I know that we've got some retail partners happening. What can you tell us about what this cigar is going to look like in the retail scene over the next few months?
So absolutely. I think we have 20 stores that we have initial commitments from. Obviously this isn't something that I'm out there, selling per se. We've kind of done some soft promotion. We did a soft launch with Luxury Cigar Club. Not having the boxes, they were the right fit for that. And we are donating, 50 cents per cigar to the PCA Legal and Advocacy Defense Fund. This really organically started out as my business card. I went to Nicaragua for 10 days with Luciano and was seeing firsthand in the Pichardo Ace Prime factory how operations in the factory and the fields. And, we put together this project. Actually, at last year's trade show is when I got the first banded samples. I know that's where you, Matt, and Garrett got one of those, and I was just giving them out. I was so excited. I mean, it was like
you were.
Christmas morning, handing out cigars to people. Like, this is what I like to smoke, and it, I watered it down a little bit. The original size was a thinner cigar. It was a little more potent. And Luciano matched my taste profile perfectly, but we wanted to make it a little more accessible to folks that don't smoke cigars at the frequency that we all do. So I wanted it to be respectable within the industry, but also I'm around a lot of, politicians, a lot of staff that, this is under the gift rules. You are allowed to buy a member of Congress a cup of coffee as a lobbyist. So it's basically $5 and under. And that's what I pay is under that. So, they are available. I think there's a few hundred left available on luxurycigar.com without the boxes, but our retail partners, and I'll be with Luciano this Wednesday. They should be shipping in June and early July.
Very nice.
Awesome. And we do have a picture of that new box. Sexy.
That is beautiful. Glossy blue, glossy dark blue with the silver and the gold. I think it's baller. I love it.
Yeah. And I know from previous conversations with Luciano, I'm pretty sure the only thing that he was really telling people is it's a San Andreas wrapper.
Yes.
So,
some Brazilian. We did a special with Cigar Journal where they did the ratings and they did a little more in depth. It's Nicaraguan and Ecuadorian, I believe Ecuadorian filler, Nicaraguan binder, and a few leaves of Brazilian tobacco in there. So, but it is high prime Mexican San Andreas wrapper.
And it's yummy.
Yeah, and I really agree with what you said, Josh, and what you said that Luciano had to convey about the blend is that it's really accessible to anybody. This isn't a cigar that should in any way, scare off somebody who's newer to premium cigars, who maybe hasn't smoked anything in a strong range. It's a medium bodied cigar that's got a lot of depth and richness to it, a lot of dark, those characteristic dark flavors and aroma notes that you get from San Andreas.
If you like a cigar to taste like that, almost Americano type coffee flavor, teetering into espresso.
Yeah.
It's
got a lot of that going on.
It's fantastic. So, all right. So that's the El Politico. Now, Josh, you teased us a little bit before the show. So
some big reveals. So I have two other projects that I'm working on right now. One is very near and dear to my heart. I am from Erie, Pennsylvania, where the fleet for the Battle of Lake Erie was constructed. So there was a cigar company, which I really would encourage folks to check out, Liberty Cigar Company.
Mm-hmm.
John Adams is the gentleman's name. He is a commercial real estate agent by day, but just a passionate lover of history. And he makes cigars for the White House Historical Association, Mount Vernon. He has a Founding Fathers series. He has a Commander series, a President series. I think in his portfolio, he has 70 cigars named after historical figures. And in the blending process, he will work with a master blender in the Dominican Republic that basically takes the character traits or components of these individuals' lives and incorporates them into the cigar itself. And we worked together to produce a cigar called the Carronade, which is a smaller cannon. It was used on naval vessels, and it's named after the brig commander of the Niagara, Oliver Hazard Perry, who's very famous in Erie circles. So this cigar itself, and kind of conceptualizing what John Adams did with this, he has a whole bio. He works with a historian, put this cigar together. At the end, you'll really taste notes of gunpowder. And it's a 45-minute smoke because when Oliver Hazard Perry transferred from his battleship, the Lawrence, to the Niagara, it took 45 minutes. And there's this, every piece, I mean, there's like 10 different traits in this. And I was with John a couple of weeks ago, and he said for this cigar, it's going to be part of a larger naval series. They are going to sell it at Mount Vernon. It will be available in Erie. And in the box itself is going to be a 20-minute documentary that people will be able to open up and watch about the Battle of Lake Erie. So as a history nerd, it just kind of has come full circle. We were connected through a friend of a friend, and I knew when I had a call with John, I'm like, I have this idea. I'm going to pitch it. We'll see if he likes it. We are only doing, 1,200 of these. And we're going to release them on September 10th, the commemoration of the Battle of Lake Erie.
That is so cool. I love, history is, we're history nerds.
We are history nerds.
That is very cool.
Man, dude, Josh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So only 1,200 cigars?
1,200 cigars for this year. And I think the packs and that, I mean, if you look at how his branding and marketing, how he's constructed them, it really is amazing. And, we did actually a Revolutionary War podcast together, and in Quantico, Virginia, which some people know. Last year, I got involved as a partner in a cigar lounge, Embassy Cigar Lounge, and we hosted the podcast there. And, John talked about history, and he has this big van that will fit like 30,000 cigars. And he gave me a Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Rider series. And it's just like, yeah, these are cigars, but I feel like I'm back in, I was a history minor back in college, and going through a textbook as I'm smoking the cigar or experiencing it.
I love it.
That's very cool.
We've got the guys from Founder Cigar Company watching as well. Thanks for watching. And we are seeing more and more cigar themes, not only military, but history.
Yeah.
And I love all of it. I think there's a lot more room for it. And that's going to be exciting for you as well, Josh.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of Founder cigars. I know Battlefield Cigar does something similar on the Civil War era. And that's another thing that's a good talking point when you're going in front of regulators and legislators talking about the impact of cigars. We all know the social benefits, we know the economic benefits, but how about just the learning aspect of it? And, you're thinking about biographies and past events and history, you're doing it in an interesting and intriguing way. There are people that are enjoying any of those three companies that I mentioned, their cigars, and I guarantee you they're on their phone and Google looking up, Ben Franklin, looking up John Hancock or Benedict Arnold. Benedict Arnold was actually a very popular seller in our shop. We did a Father's Day sale, with some of John's products from Liberty Cigar, and it was amazing just seeing people. Let's in striking up conversations about history. That was neat to see.
And and as we're talking about this, and I'm just thinking of all the different events and the locations where these cigars are going to be, more popular. Have you guys ever been to one of those like real deal Civil War reenactment?
I never have. No.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. I'm going July 2nd to Gettysburg.
Oh, you're doing Gettys. I haven't done the Gettys, and I got to do it.
Union Cigar Company, or Union Cigar Lounge out in Gettysburg. They're a PCA member. Fantastic spot. I go there every time I go to Gettysburg, and we'll walk the battlefield, little round top with a cigar. It almost brings tears to your eyes when thinking about the scale of everything.
Yeah, I was in Lexington, Kentucky. And of course, now that battle totally escapes my mind, but they did this amazing reenactment. And just like you said, it brings tears to your eyes, because as the narrator is kind of walking through the whole deal, talking about how many lives were lost and the position and the fields that were just soaked. It's a very powerful image. And
it's interesting. Like, I was surprised that the White House Historical Association is promoting tobacco products, and you find these little nuggets through conversation, and anyone that knows me, and Matt and Garrett, you've experienced time with me on a social level at the PCA trade show. I am all about cigars. I enjoy every component of it, not just the lobbying and the advocacy that sometimes can be frustrating. I still enjoy that, but I'm constantly wanting to learn and reach out to the experts. If people are doing something interesting and I can tag along and get involved somehow or come up with an idea, that's what I've been pursuing. And another example, once I found out the White House Historical Association was doing cigars, I mentioned it to Glenn Loop, my colleague, and he's like, a couple of years ago, the Vatican, the Holy See, banned all tobacco products where the Pope lives and their gift shops and that, except for cigars. And one of the folks that was instrumental in preserving cigars was actually a priest out of Kansas City. And that priest will be coming to the trade show this year as one of our guests.
Wow.
And he's kind of like a celebrity in my mind. I'm like, absolutely invite him. Tell him to come. I'll walk him around and he'll get to meet a lot of people. So I'm really excited for that too.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Cool.
Father H.
Yep.
Love it. I cannot wait.
Jay knows.
And I think it's really cool that there are still notable people in Washington in positions of power, for lack of a better term, who are still paying heed. I don't want to use the word homage, but they're paying heed to the fact that tobacco as a crop, really did play a huge part in the beginning of this nation.
Absolutely.
And it and it's also a real, when we talked to Nick Melillo about this before, there's a huge ceremonial piece to it.
Yeah.
When it comes to bringing people together from from different places, and tobacco as a crop was such a huge part of the beginning of the country, and I think it's important to remember that. And this is a good way to educate people about that. And I love the fact that the only tobacco product still available at the Vatican is cigars. I absolutely love that.
I had no idea, and that is a beautiful thing. I now know.
One more nerdy history fact for you guys. So in DC, in the U.S. Capitol, Congressman Tom Cole out of Oklahoma, he is a big cigar smoker, goes to ZT Cigars, Todd Nafe's shop all the time. Well, Congressman Cole, he was in leadership. He's in Republican leadership. And he was the ranking member of the Rules Committee. And he has an office in the actual Capitol building. And he has ventilation set up where a lot of members of Congress will go and enjoy a cigar. There's, a whole cigar caucus, but they will actually go and smoke in there. And the fun historical fact is where they actually light up their cigars was where the British entered the Capitol to burn the Capitol during the War of 1812.
Wow. I love that.
I have goosebumps.
Isn't that cool?
Isn't that cool? Goosebumps.
Those little stories, are so meaningful. I don't know. They are to me.
They are to me too.
And I just think that is so cool.
I know Jay's watching. I'm going to have to bring Jay and next time he's in DC for one of our PCA meetings and take him to smoke in that exact spot.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
I love that.
I do too. Well, and I know, not to continue to talk about my trip this last week, but I got to hear Henderson talk about the whole theme of his brand and the final two, the Royal Return. Why they named it that, it was because when they discovered tobacco in North America, it was just this amazing plant that was so coveted and they saw that they were smoking it and loved it, that they brought it back for the king and queen.
Yeah.
And that's why that series is called The Royal Return. It was such a gift. It was on par with gold and other things. I mean, that's how amazing tobacco was at that time.
It was right up there with spices.
That's right.
And salt and gold.
Yes.
And it was highly treasured, and still is, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
Well, George Washington said, during the Revolutionary War, if you can't send munitions, send tobacco. It was a currency.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would love to talk about history all night, but there are some important current events going on when it comes to the FDA and the Premium Cigar Association and the Premium Cigar industry as a whole. So, as we know, there has been a lot of activity in the last many years. But if we narrow it down to very recently, within the last few months, a lot of activity from the FDA, especially surrounding flavored tobacco products. And we know that the call you had earlier today did cover a lot of that. So, Josh, if you would walk us through kind of the current circumstances that the FDA is presenting to the premium cigar industry in relation to flavored products, and what you guys discussed today on your call, and some of the strategies the PCA is beginning to develop to inform and educate the FDA about these products.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been an ongoing battle at the, the state and local levels that we've seen proliferating across the country. Now you have the federal level, the regulators taking action, and it's creating a tobacco product standard. But it's a de facto ban on characterizing flavors in cigars. It is limited to cigars. Pipe tobacco is not included in this. That's one of the things that we're communicating and working on, that, yes, that shouldn't be included. But they are very general in their use of the word characterizing flavors. We don't know exactly all that it will entail, whether it's, infused cigars, or, if it's barrel aged, like what does a characterizing flavor mean? And they didn't define that. So, as the retail organization, our North Star is, premium cigars. We have a definition. It doesn't include machine made or flavors, but that nonetheless, there is a marketplace for that. And, the association believes that adult consumers can make adult choices, and
Can I
that,
interrupt can I
Yep.
interrupt for one sec, Josh?
Yep.
That definition that we have, is that the Altria definition that was defined a couple years ago?
No, this was done by Judge Maida in the
Okay.
recent court
Yeah.
case.
Okay.
There's 8 different components to it, but and it was affirmed. The FDA used it in their pre-market review or pre-market authorization rule. So it's the closest thing that we have to a formal definition, because it was in the courts, it was used by the FDA, but through legislation, there isn't a definition. The tax code, and where it gets real wonky, is the tax code has large cigars and small cigars. There's no definition for premium. So cigar terminology, it gets confusing because there are groups that say it should include this and should not include that. As it relates to the flavor rule, PCA vehemently opposes the prohibition of products, of these products. We know that 93%, and we surveyed our membership before we took this position, 93% of our PCA members carry a flavored cigar. So, we're out front and center making economic arguments. What is the small business impact? What is the impact on employees? But also poking holes into what the FDA has not done. And the biggest concerning thing, and I mentioned this on one of our conference calls today, why I'm concerned about this rule is that the FDA is no longer saying that youth access is the North Star, that these rules are not being promulgated because of youth access solely. It's because it disproportionately affects minority communities, LGBT communities, and that they're making this decision because of that, even though those are adult consumers. So it used to be most of these things were, it appeals to youth, it appeals to youth. That's why they need to take action. They've moved the goalposts again. And, we're saying to them.
I'm sorry. Do they have any data that is pointing them in that direction?
Exactly.
Where, like, I feel like this came from total left field. Are they just throwing literal shit at the wall to see what sticks?
It's extremely sparse, the data and information that they put together. It's right out of the playbook of the anti-tobacco groups. The conference call today, you had a lot of law enforcement officers objecting, saying that this is going to cause further problems of minorities getting arrested for things that were previously not criminal or prohibited.
Yeah.
But you had all the public health groups saying, yes, we need to do this. Yes, we need to do this. And it was a pep rally. And I was frustrated Friday night. I'm getting ready to fly to Cleveland to come to Erie. And I get a note from the FDA saying that I was not selected to present at today's session or the one on the 15th. So we are filing a request for extension that they move their deadline for public comments back so that they can accommodate additional voices. But we are the national voice for 3,000 plus brick and mortar retailers and 30,000 employees. I think it would be their due diligence to allow us the opportunity to provide a 5-minute comment in a public forum. Now,
Yeah.
I'll give them credit. They did have retailers that said, hey, this is going to negatively impact my business. But there was a disproportionate number of antis on there. And they didn't give us the opportunity because months ago, when this was the Office of Management and Budget and the White House was looking at this rule, we submitted questions that were unanswered. We also followed up. They did another listening session before they released the rule. We submitted questions. They didn't answer it. And it goes into two parts. When they released this rule, they said it would have no international implications. That is patently false. When you have the largest markets coming from Nicaragua, the Dominican Republic, and Honduras, the Dominican government has been very public. Should this go into effect, 40,000 people are going to lose their job day one.
That's just Dominican Republic too.
That's just Dominican Republic. And that's year one. There will be residual effects. So we're saying that we need an international economic study. And then, to their point, saying that this disproportionately affects minority communities. Well, we said to them, what about the disproportionate effect on minority-owned businesses, small businesses? What does that impact? We are seeing a lot of folks that are first-time business owners, especially, last year where we had this mini cigar boom where people were coming together. I've been to at least a dozen veteran-owned groups or firefighter owned cigar lounges or cigar clubs or even mobile cigar lounges of minority-owned businesses. And they are, they just sprung up in the past 5 years. And we're saying you have no data on that. How many jobs are going to be lost and how many small businesses are going to be lost because of this action? Those are two important things that they need to address before they promulgate a rule.
Absolutely. And it seems like it's another example yet again where the FDA sort of they show their cards and they prove that they really don't have a grasp on these products. They don't understand how they're made. They don't understand any of it.
I don't think they want to.
And I think you're right. They don't want to. They don't care.
This line that they're going where they continue to move goalposts is clear that they don't want to.
So that brings up a good question, Josh. It's one thing to argue something when your opponent really knows the data down to its core. And yet I would think it's even more difficult to argue something when your opponent really doesn't have any grasp whatsoever on what they're even talking about.
Yeah, it's, they have conflationary data. They have partial truths. It gets frustrating. I will say that, like last year we had the big federal tax issues that brought the industry closer together. This issue in itself is also bringing the industry closer together. And people are starting to realize that, we might disagree on talking points. We might disagree on some strategy here and there, but we can work together on 95%. And that's what we're focusing on. And I have had conference calls across the spectrum of all the manufacturers, some that sell flavored products, some that don't, retailers, the other major associations. I mean, we have regular conference calls with NATO, NACS, with CAA, with CRA. You know, everybody is, you know, sharing intel. And not only at the domestic level, I was on a conference call today with the Director General of the European Manufacturers Association. They are dealing with a comprehensive legislative framework comment period with the European Commission. And now that we're coordinating, because the anti-tobacco groups, they have national conferences and, you know, Davos and all these other places, because they receive a ton of money from Bloomberg Philanthropies and you name it. They have the resources, but we're trying to bring people together. And PCA is actually going to be filing a comment to the European Commission supporting the work of what the European Manufacturers Association is fighting against. And we are asking them to get involved in supporting the evidence and comments that we're working on domestic issues. And this is not just limited to Europe. I mean, when you see stuff, and I know that a lot of cigar media covered Australia and New Zealand and some of the most egregious things, I will say that we are starting to get organized as a industry to fight back against things that are not only localized and in the states. Glenn is doing a fantastic job rebuilding state associations. We have a new state handbook. We have 25 state associations, another 10 with a primary contact. We're working and we're walking and chewing gum at the same time, but it takes very little time and resources to send a support comment. And as the largest cigar market in the world, the Premium Cigar Association needs to start carrying its weight, you know, abroad in addition to domestically. And that's been a priority of mine, you know, coming into my new role.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I want to break down a little bit if the FDA and if I want to break down the differentiation between characterizing flavors, meaning, you know, somebody says this, if you enjoy this cigar, you're going to get subtle notes of cedar and cocoa. I'm just pulling things out of the air, but you know what I'm getting at. You know, typically notes that you would see in Cigar Aficionado when they review a cigar, that kind of thing. And then there's those characterizing flavors, the same as you would get from, you know, somebody sampling a glass of wine and saying, I'm getting, you know, notes of, you know, dried cherries and black pepper, whatever. And then you have products that are actually infused or enhanced with aromas and flavorings. Do they differentiate between those two things at all?
No, they're very vague in this. And, you know, that's where we have serious questions about the cigars that aren't actually flavored or infused, being able to describe them using the appropriate you know, descriptors, characterizing flavor descriptors. So, you know, this cigar I think has, you know, a nutmeg or a cocoa. And, you know, there's some significant free speech issues that come to play here.
Absolutely.
You know, we're making that argument, you know, in the all likelihood of this, they're going to have to, and it's going to be a delayed or drawn out process. I answered the question on one of the shows that I did a couple weeks ago. Nothing changes at this point. Retailers should operate as business as usual, selling the products that they're legally allowed to sell. This will be a long, drawn-out process. We're asking for a 180-day extension to really get the full scope. We plan on releasing a survey this week that we're partnering with CAA on, trying to figure out the scope of the economic impact. We have a list of SKUs that are commonly sold, and basically what would be the detrimental effects or lost sales from that. So we're sending out that survey to our membership to kind of get a better idea of that. So, if it's granted right now, the July 5th is the deadline to submit comments. We set up a portal, fightflavorbands.com, which is available for retailers as well as consumers. So folks can go on there and send a pre-written message. Very, very easy to do, similar to our grassroots campaigns to congressional officials that we do throughout the year. We will be filing a comment and finalizing that draft this week. So we're very engaged on this issue. It's interesting because on the state side in California, they have a referendum on flavors. And we have set up and worked with CART, the California Retail Association, and we've set up an ad hoc coalition with a lot of the other parties to educate folks and voters about this. So when the comment period closes, fightflavorbands.com is going to go from a federal initiative to a California education piece. So we're really maximizing and stretching our resources as best as we can.
Okay.
All right. A couple of things. Could you walk us through what the mechanics of these sessions are really aiming to do here? So you've got a panel from the FDA, and you have a judge that is listening to all of these as well?
Not in this. These are just listening sessions where FDA staff is taking it in and processing, similar to the written comments. These are just done, in oral format. So they had the 6-hour session today. They have another one on Wednesday. I have asked them to do a third one because evidently they couldn't accommodate us to participate. But it's not like an up or down vote where it's like, all right, there's 10 people that are for the ban and 20 people against the ban. They're looking for meaningful comments. There's a lot of ambiguity and subjectivity to it. I find it frustrating. The speakers have varied from former ATF directors to professors to high school students. There were over 50 speakers today, and the comments really went across the board. And we provided some notations for our own purposes, but we're calling into question that ambiguity. We're basically saying you have to have a definition of characterizing flavors for the retail community and the manufacturer, so you have an understanding of what are the actual confines that you can operate in. But not only that, we oppose the whole thing. It is poorly written. We cite the NASEM study, which that it was a few months ago was released. I presented to that committee, which was a panel of 15 medical professionals and researchers. That was the toughest hour and a half of my career, getting peppered by those questions. But we are citing government studies. We are not taking tobacco industry anecdotes. We are asking serious questions. We are poking holes into their conclusions that we think that they've made in a faulty fashion, and countering those points using government-funded studies.
Which probably led them to move the goalposts in the first place, going from, access to underage smokers now to this whole new thing. Can that be characterized as kind of a win, that they're kind of giving up on that front now that they feel like they don't have a foot to stand on with that? And
I don't think they are giving up. I think that they are looking at the totality of things. I mean, in the NASEM report, they talked about a lack of self-regulation. I do think that the youth access issue is still front and center, but they are looking at it from a variety of different viewpoints. We also, heard some rumblings that they are looking at setting restrictions on nicotine limits for cigarettes. That's another thing that is going to be coming within weeks.
Yeah.
Now, when it starts with cigarettes, they always try to extend it to other tobacco products. So
Right.
now if you have a nicotine restriction, the variance with a cigar, it's not the same as a standardized method of cigarettes. You're going to then put the burden of testing requirements back on to cigars. So, I sat in the gallery for the third lawsuit against the FDA. The FDA was talking about how testing requirements, that's frozen, how the warning labels, that's no longer, how pre-market review, that there's no real concerns for the industry. And it's like, well, you have a lot in the pipeline that is extremely concerning.
Right.
And in the NASEM study, they did say the section that was the most concerning in that study was about youth access, was about marketing, and was about a lack of self-regulation in the premium cigar industry, in the cigar industry at large. And that is why we have, we've sent out some releases from our board and from Scott Pierce and Greg Zimmerman that our team has worked on, kind of giving everybody the warning shot that, I certainly don't want to stifle anyone's creativity, nor does the association, but there are certain things that we don't really want to put the crosshairs back on to, PCA members. And we have to take some steps of self-policing to an extent. And a lot of it, when I say self-regulation or self-policing, and I listen to a lot of the shows, I see people freak out and get mad. And, I understand the libertarian and I understand that perspective. We don't want to say you can't do something. And I think a lot of it is more the common sense approach of, if, you're talking to folks and having conversations and you see something egregious pop out, basically saying, hey, you might want to rethink this. And the approach that we're taking is through a combination of guidance and sending out messaging that resembles warnings. But we have guidance that's going to be coming out on trademark and trade dress. We have more additional guidance on youth access. And we're also talking about charitable giving. For the longest time, cigar industry would support charitable activities that reach out. I got hit up as a retail, from the retail perspective in Quantico, of a high school cheerleading group asking for sponsorship. Well, if they're not 21 years or older, you can't, as a tobacconist, donate to that charity. Or you have the like the American Cancer Society. For a number of years, there were tobacconists that would provide cigars at golf tournaments. Well, the American Cancer Society, they do a lot of good research, but they also have an advocacy arm that's trying to put us all out of business. So, things like that, we're highlighting the new frontiers. We're thinking critically, and that's what Vision 50 has been about. What do the next, 5, 10, 50 years look like for the premium cigar industry? For far too long, it's been reactionary. And that is something that Scott Pierce and our board's leadership has said, no, you know what? We're going to explore some new avenues. We're going to have conversations with our international counterparts. We're going to share information, and we're also going to put the industry on notice of things that could be problems in years to come.
Yeah. One of the things that we've talked about on past shows, but never been able to dig into it really deeply, and I've always wanted to learn more about what it really means. So you've used the term before called a master settlement. And if you could, for us, give us sort of the layperson's quick cliff notes explanation of what a master settlement is.
Well, I think that was used in actually a different person. I didn't use the master settlement term because master settlement really deals with a lot of the cigarette companies and the lawsuits there. With our lawsuits, these are our latest challenge, and it wouldn't involve any master settlement. We are suing the FDA for the third time, and in this case. It is about the challenge of the deeming rule itself, that they did not follow the Administrative Procedures Act in doing so. So that is the crux of it, that there are damages that the cigar industry has to endure because the FDA, in their promulgation of that rule, or lack of promulgating a premium cigar rule, has failed to follow up to their regulatory requirements. And I think that as it relates to our earlier conversation about flavors, ultimately there are going to be some challenges in the courts regarding flavored tobacco. So it's multi-front, and furthermore, and I think something that gets extremely overlooked in these discussions, Congress does not have, there's no congressional intent for this action of banning flavored cigars. They debated it, there was legislation with it, and it didn't pass. So, why is the FDA legislating from a regulatory perspective? And this is where it gets confusing. They are supposed to implement rules that is in line with what Congress has given them the authority to do.
Exactly.
From my perspective, they are overreaching that congressional authority in this action of the flavored cigars tobacco product standards.
That never happens in government.
No, that never happens in government.
Can for the public school people, can you define promulgating?
Basically just going through and releasing the rule through a process. There are certain requirements, and they call it the promulgation of the rule, where it's actually released. There have been things that have been frozen. There's a lot of things that can happen all along this process.
Okay.
So when, let's say the FDA comes along, like what's been happening, lately with flavors and things like that. When things start coming across your desk and the desks of other people in the Premium Cigar Association, what is the process? Help us understand as PCA, for us as PCA members, and also for the consumers who watch and listen to this show. Help us understand the process of what it looks like when the PCA as an organization decides which measures you're going to take. Does that come to a discussion of the board members and saying, okay, this we should do this and we should do that, and this is what the strategy should look like, and things like that? And then does the board vote on a final strategy before moving forward?
There, it's a case by case. There's a lot of things that will require. We have an advocacy committee, which I, am the staff liaison and oversee the agenda for that. We as hired staff have weekly meetings. We have weekly meetings with our stakeholder partners like CRA, which we had earlier today. We're making sure that we're communicating there and I've been doing this for 3 years with PCA. I was a consultant that worked with IPCPR for a year before that, but I've been lobbying for a decade. And I have, to use a vernacular term, I have the spidey sense of knowing what is going to be a hot button issue that will require board discussion and board vote. So I will raise the threat level, so to speak, for ones that I know that would cause friction or concern. There are things where the industry is divided on, and a lot of those things will go through that formal vetting process. We did have a board vote on the topic of youth access recently. So that was something, because there are varying viewpoints. We keep someone on our staff is keeping up to date, or our board, on a lot of the conversations going on through the cigar media, through what's going on in the industry at large. There are some day-to-day issues where we make decisions. For instance, something that was a real quick, we have to respond immediately. We got denied speaking at the legislative or listening session on Friday. We are sending the extension request letter tomorrow. That was drafted today. So there's a quick turnaround, but a lot of it, we've been doing more member surveys. Once we got the data that 93% of our members carry flavored cigars, we knew that we had to take a position. Now, we did have internal discussions. Not everyone agreed. We had some, our government affairs team, and I love working for Scott Pierce. He's a fantastic boss. He really allows our government affairs team to make the government affairs decisions and inform him, keep him up to date on what's going on. And we'll ask for permission for certain things, but we're, very autonomous from the other parts of the organization for a lot of the things, because, some parts of government affairs are extremely slow, and other parts you have to be able to have a rapid response. So, in that, working through the committees, working with the boards, getting a general understanding, I lay out a clear, it's 30 pages during the beginning of the year for our board meeting in February, of a strategic plan and document for the year. We do a 10-page update. We have policy resolutions. And one thing that we're doing unique this year, and really, I came across last year, I presented at the TAA, the Tobacconists Association conference in the Dominican Republic. They do a very open forum where you present a few comments and then you allow people to chime in. We want feedback. That's why we do the, monthly broadcast, PCA Live. And a lot of times people have differing opinions. We get people that call in and say, hey, you're off base, this is wrong. We do take that into consideration. If you're a dues paying member of the association, we have to listen to you. And we have an open phone line for that, whether it's myself, Ryan, or Glenn, or Patrick Anderson, our consultant. We are in a constant feedback loop of surveys, listening to what's out there, and also offering these new opportunities, such as a public forum. We may have someone that gets up there at the trade show and says, why are you taking this flavor position? Well, I have the evidence, I have the points that we've made, that the rationale that has gone into that I will be able and freely and willingly will explain.
Well, and I really appreciate the fact that the PCA is, at least in my estimation, seems to be more vocal about this particular issue right now, and mainly it was drawn out by the FDA trying to make more moves with their recent talking points. But I believe there was a sentiment 2 years ago or so, that I won't say everybody, but I feel like many people felt that the PCA was willing to discard flavored products as a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, to try to maybe get closer to the exemption that we all pray for so much. But from what I'm seeing right now, that's very obviously not the case. That the PCA is not willing to sacrifice flavored products for the sake of all the unflavored premium cigars in the market.
Yeah, I mean, we believe in our definition. That's separate, but again, we are not going to sit idly as the FDA tries to prohibit a product that's sold by 93% or more of our membership. Our mission statement is to protect the business of specialty tobacco retailing, and that's where our position has derived on this. And I through our team, we have made that recommendation, and our board of directors has supported the initiatives that we have taken. We have a nuanced position. We're not 100%, aligned with the CAA perspective. We're not 100% aligned with the CRA perspective, but we are front and center on this, and we're going to be front and center on every issue that affects the PCA membership. And that's one thing that, as long as I'm with the association and Scott Pierce is with the association, we are going to be transparent about the actions that we're taking. We are going to provide vehicles for feedback and improvement, whether you agree with us or disagree with us. But we are going to be very vocal and very active. No one's going to wonder where does PCA stand on this? That's not something that, and I think most people would agree. And Aaron Holland has done really good work on the communications front. If you look across the board, PCA is, I tell our team, I would love to be first on everything. I want to be the first association out the gate. And that doesn't just apply to tobacco. When we were talking about the COVID restrictions, I loved it every time we beat out the National Restaurants Association or the Chamber of Commerce, who have millions of dollars more resources than we do. I'm very competitive in that sense, but I want to be accurate. So a lot of these things where, I know there's still some grumblings. Well, why did it take PCA 3 days to do it? Well, if we're a party to a lawsuit, we have to run that by our lawyers. We have to have a calculated response. We are going to respond to something, but give us the benefit of the doubt to make sure that when we go out on the record, we don't say anything that will adversely affect our overall position. And we haven't done that to date, which is something that I'm really proud of our team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say for myself and for many others who have been directly involved in covering the cigar industry for a number of years, is we really deeply appreciate the increase in transparency since Scott came into the position, since you came into the organization. I have genuinely seen an increase in transparency that maybe wasn't necessarily as much prior to you guys coming into the group. And it's deeply appreciated by us as cigar media, but I know it's also deeply appreciated by retailers and manufacturers alike.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's something that we've been working towards. I know that, with a lot of the stuff, the organization has had some massive changes, and changes that have been for the positive. I mean, having manufacturers on the board of directors, getting that perspective on things. I mean, those conversations are invaluable, and we get a lot of input from that. And on our advocacy committee calls, there are times when they're like, why don't you run this by these folks, and then ensure that we're doing it. And when we're dealing with issues of such great magnitude that affect so many people, we want to make sure that we get it right. And like I said, youth access, I guarantee you, I did a blog post with Glenn. We had an initial statement. We're working on some additional actions. Folks didn't agree with that. I mean, there were some folks that were opposed to that position, but I think they at least understand the rationale. There were also folks that said we didn't go far enough. So, I think that we tried to strike a balance. We're trying to strike a balance. We're trying to war game and strategize what the future looks like, and how can we responsibly respond to the regulatory and legislative threats while preserving the creativity, beauty, and ingenuity of the industry. We want to have a robust marketplace. And, everyone, it's almost this reactionary thing. And I have the conversations with folks in the international community, and it's kind of like, well, we're just waiting for what's going to happen next, and we don't want to promote tobacco. And it's like, well, I'm going to promote the 30,000 retail jobs, the 3,000 plus businesses that are anchors of their communities, that are social, economic, and cultural centers for their cities, towns, and communities. I'm not going to be bashful about it. I enjoy cigars as a consumer first, and I don't want anyone jeopardizing the my right or my ability to continue to enjoy my passion.
Yeah.
My professor way back in college got me into cigars and politics, and that has shaped my entire life. So I am going to fight, tooth and nail to defend this industry.
Yeah.
So for those that are watching with us and listening after the fact, how can they get involved? How can their voice be heard?
Absolutely. So, I think, first and foremost, as it relates to the flavor rules, I know that you all posted fightflavorbans.com, submit a comment, get involved there. There are some other additional conversations about getting consumers more involved with PCA, that we are retail organizations, but retailers are the gatekeepers to consumers. We've had activations where, we've had QR codes at the point of sale. We've been engaging with consumers through retailers, and I think that there's going to be more of that. We need to build an army, and at the end of the day, these public health groups, the Lung Association, Cancer Society, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, there's about 42 or 44 public health groups that are extremely anti-tobacco, and they are all engaging consumers. Yep. You saw CAA recently engage with consumers, NATO engage with consumers. I think that there's space for a lot of organizations to capture additional audiences. We're not cannibalizing or fighting over consumers. We just want to get as many people to vocalize their opposition to some of the draconian actions that are coming out of elected officials and regulators alike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that, and I've talked about this on the show before, but I had an interaction with one of my going in for a physical for my doctor, and the nurse, asked if, I smoked, and we went through that whole conversation and, tried to give me some information about quitting smoking. And she was actually writing a paper for her RN on tobacco. And I asked, in your education, how much of that was about premium cigars? 0%.
Yeah.
So from an education standpoint, we have all of these medical personnel who are being taught that any and all tobacco is evil and wrong and unhealthy.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
Yeah. And many of them are given grants and research funding opportunities, which definitely sway their opinion on that. I mean, and unfortunately, it's, I like compromise. I like negotiating. I'm practical. I don't see red. I don't see blue. I see, people sitting down and enjoying a cigar. Mm-hmm. I see people breaking bread, having tough conversations. And I see, cigar lounges. I'll talk politics. I'll talk religion. I'll talk about the topics that people say you shouldn't talk about because you're relaxed and you're enjoying it. You're in a comfortable atmosphere and you have a lot of good quality conversations there. But with our opposition, they will not engage with us at all on our issues. We recently had a fantastic intern from Washington and Lee University for the past few months, and he was doing a research project on tobacco regulation. And he was interning for us, not paid, just assisting on some research thing. He's had 10 other really high quality internships, and he reached out to one of the public health organizations, and they refused to meet with him about his paper. In today's session, there was a crazy professor that got on there and called us in the tobacco industry racketeers. That that we are known racketeers, and there's actually there's a website out there that has a list, and they didn't do it at the federal level, which surprises me. They're probably going to do that in round 2, but they went through and they actually listed all state level lobbyists and said that they're known racketeers, and they are going to employers and other people saying, don't do business with them, fire them, get rid of them. Oh, it's terrible, but
how is that not defamation?
It is a blatant attack. I haven't had it. There was a consultant that we worked with in the past that was on this list, and I teach at George Washington University as an adjunct. I teach the lobbying class there, and I know that they're going to come after me at some point because I am a tobacco lobbyist, and they're going to go to GW and say, you know what, you got to get rid of Josh Habursky because he represents tobacco interests. Fortunately, in one of the classes, I'm tenured, so hopefully they'll fight for me.
So, before we get into the next segments of the show, we obviously want to briefly touch on the fact that the big industry trade show, the PCA exhibition and trade show, is, I think, 25 days away.
Is that coming up?
It's like it is coming up fast. So if you could just give us a brief overview of some of the cool stuff that we can expect, because we're going to be there covering it live for our viewers and listeners. So give us a brief overview of what we can expect.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the trade show, and obviously it's the business to business show, manufacturers, retailers coming together, but it is a family reunion. It is, a lot of people socializing. I cannot wait. I know it's going to be a late night, early morning every single day. I think my first trade show, I had 86 cigars during the show. I'm trying to break that record this year.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for it. We took the feedback, and last year was an anomaly. There were a lot of constraints, and like I said, Scott does a really good job giving government affairs the being autonomous and kind of allowing us to take that direction. He and Lisa and Aaron really deserve a ton of credit, along with the board, for putting the show together. There's new and improved receptions. The new marquee night pool party. I know people were like, we didn't have enough parties or social atmosphere. That was addressed. There's more cocktail hours. There's a lot of new things. The one area that we've contributed to in the government affairs side is programming. That the trade show is also a convention where there should be some learning and best practices. We have 2 breakout sessions. We have that policy forum that I'll be leading. And then we also have an international segment. One of the cool things, and for anyone that knows me, like I said, I'm all about cigars. I went on a vacation, I think it was 3 months ago, to London, personal vacation. I had never been to London, and wanted to go to Churchill's estate, Chartwell, and smoke cigars. And the Sakakians, they own the Davidoff store in London. And I went there and met with the owner. Fantastic. Eddie and Edward, They took care of me. Ryan actually went with me, my colleague, who's our government affairs manager, and we went to Chartwell. He set us up with a cab driver that would allow us to smoke cigars in the cab. So as we're going, I mean, I felt like Winston Churchill. We had tea and scones. But I also tack on, in addition to my cigar adventures like that, that are purely social, I work with Ricardo from Tour Imports to bring all the ambassadors from Nicaragua, Honduras, and DR to do a policy forum. And we had a session where we kind of talked about what's going on in the US, what's going on in London, what's going on in the EU. And that was a 3-hour exchange. We had some great ideas. Ricardo and Reinhard from Cigar Journal, Light 'em Up, they are facilitating an international discussion and a way to welcome distributors and folks that are coming from abroad. We had an uptick in folks coming internationally to this year's trade show, and we're getting more folks from the Middle East and Asia, other markets that are emerging markets that actually have, to some extent, less regulation in this space than we do in the United States. So that's going to be an interesting session. And these are very conversational. It's not us talking at people. We'll set the stage, but people will be able to give their opinions, come up with ideas. So I'm looking forward to those. And then I think we have 7 state association meetings, which is important. We're getting organized at the states, and you know, Glenn is doing fantastic work there. We have a new state association handbook that we're revealing. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, there will be new at the PAC booth this year. People will be able to pick up their new PCA stickers that they'll put in their the window, saying that we ID over 30 years old, no tobacco purchases under 21. So people will be able to pick up their new stickers that identify themselves as PCA members. We'll be giving away those and a few other things.
Very nice.
Did you happen to meet our friend John Strange?
I did not. He was not at that one. We started out small. I think so, and I'll do another release here. I don't think we've given the dates yet, but November 16th and 17th, we are doing a policy summit in Washington, D.C. The first day is going to be domestic policy, and the second day will be international policy. We did the virtual one last year. We're going in person and bringing everybody together again where we can have those conversations. And we will have regulators and elected officials. We have a fairly good rapport with several staff at the FDA, and I'm hopeful that the new CTP director, Dr. Brian King, will present or provide remarks at that forum.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That's exciting stuff. It's going to be a fun trade show. We're excited to see, like you said, you used the perfect term. It's a family reunion, and we're excited to see everybody, and especially excited, that there's, we're going to have a nice handful of companies that maybe took a year or two off from exhibiting at the show that are going to be back. So it's just an exciting time to be with everybody, and it reinvigorates our not that we necessarily needed much help with that, but it does reinvigorate your excitement for the industry.
Absolutely. And it's great seeing people. I mean, I was fortunate, this year I wanted to go on the road, and we did through the pandemic. I didn't want the association and government affairs to slow down at all. We didn't want to lose any momentum. And now in this remote world where, I'm not physically in the US Capitol every day, I can do meetings on the road from an airplane, from an airport, from a hotel room. So as much as I can, we'll hit 100 retail stores that we visit this year. We did 100 last year, but I'm also going to the special events. Glenn and I were at Big Smoke, kind of re-engaging with folks, having conversations. And that's something that I think is a priority in the future. And I'm trying to see how other events are. And we want to be out as PCA supporting other industry partners. I think Cigar Aficionado did an incredible job with Big Smoke. I did Smokelahoma at ZT Cigars. I know that there are a couple other big events. I know that Paul Grow out in Milwaukee does Brew Fest.
Yep.
I think that's my only other major event between now and the end of the year that I'm planning on going to. And it's great to engage with people, but again, the vast majority of the industry is there, and even if you're not there, you're glued to your screen figuring out what's going on at PCA.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that wish that they were there. And I like to focus on the experience. And we've definitely heard feedback from last year, and the board has taken steps to really improve the overall quality of experience, where it's not just a trade show, it's not just the business, but it's the networking, it's the social component, and it's also the education component.
Yeah. Well, I agree with what Mitchell said. The Great Smoke from Smoke Inn and the Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest. Great events. And I'll also throw in a plug for Cigars and Baseball, which is here in Minnesota. And in early September, I can get you the info about that event too. It's a fantastic event that where the proceeds go to charity that puts together baseball facilities for kids with disabilities, and just a fantastic event.
Absolutely. I think that, if it's not me or someone from our team would love to attend that, I want to have, Glenn out there as much as possible, and myself out there. I was going to go to the Great Smoke, and that's another event where everyone's talking about it. There are certain things in the cigar industry where you're like scrolling through Facebook and Twitter. Oh, what are they releasing? What's going on here? And Great Smoke was one of them. I went to Pro Cigar this year, and I don't have the stamina of William Cooper to go from back to back.
Nobody does. Nobody's got the stamina of William Cooper.
That's why he and I had a blast at La Fleur with Carney. That was an amazing experience. But Pro Cigar was another event where just learning experience. And, I feel as though that I've condensed in my 3 years of time, 10 years of education by trying to get out there as much as possible.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, is it time?
Oh, I think it is.
It is now time for this week's Numero de los Muertos. And as always, Numero de los Muertos brought to us by our friends at Smoke Inn. All right, episode 162. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Justin. Always reminds me of this, and I always forget. Don't forget, when you go to smokein.com, use the discount code HBTC15 for 15% off your order. Some restrictions apply. All right, episode 162, Numero de los Muertos. Garrett, what do you have for us this week?
It is not Niagara Falls.
It's not. We'll throw. Thank you, Jason. It's not Niagara Falls.
The number comes from North America. Roughly 6.8 million people die doing this every year.
That is a huge number.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
North America.
Mm-hmm.
All right. As always, viewers, if you guys have guesses, put them in the comments. Josh and I are going to try to break this down.
8 million.
Okay. North America. every year, 6.8 million.
Driving is a good guess, and it's not correct.
Are vehicles involved?
Vehicles are not involved.
John says, is it
medical? That's.
I mean, technically, death is medical.
I know that's a hard one. That's a hard one to answer. So I'm gonna abstain. There's really no good yes or no on that one. Falling is not it.
Could these be considered workplace accidents?
No.
Not workplace accidents. Okay. Is it a recreational activity?
It is not. Well, for some it might be.
Eating saturated fats.
No. Is it? It is not viral. It is not texting.
Cigarette smoking.
That's a good. It's not cigarette smoking.
This is a tough one. Big, when the number's really big or really small, that's what makes it tougher.
I think the smaller number is easier.
I gotta pour some more scotch to think about this.
They can be. It is not choking. It is not. It could happen on land or on water, technically. Try not to think about that. Playing Wordle. Definitely. Yesterday was tough. I got it in 2 today.
Are firearms involved?
Firearms are not involved. It is not a disease.
Shoot, I'm trying to remember what are some of the usual questions I ask, and I'm drawing a blank.
Animals are not involved.
No animals. Okay. Oh, is it weather related?
That's a really good question, and it is not. Weather is not a factor.
Is it
fighting? Is not. Nope, not fighting.
Blunt force trauma?
No. Nope. Not eating.
All right. I think we need another hint from Garrett, the great master of all things death.
It is definitely a solo activity.
It's a solo activity.
I mean, you can do it with other people, I guess.
I'll use Skip Martin's regular answer. Is it autoerotic asphyxiation?
It is not. It is not abuse or fighting of any kind. It is not consuming anything. It's certainly not that. It's not riding a bike. I did that a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Bike riding. All right. So a hint would be not a bad way to go.
Is it
not motorcycles?
Is it in your sleep?
Josh,
is that it?
It is.
Woo! Yes.
In your sleep.
6.8 million people a year. Wow.
Yeah, die in your sleep.
I never would have guessed that.
That's the way to go, in my opinion. That or sex.
No, I would want to go in my sleep. I wouldn't want to go in the middle of that activity. I'd rather go sleeping any day of the week.
Yeah.
Wow. 6.8 million people.
Yep.
Just in North America. I wonder what the number is internationally.
68 million.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Cow.
Yep. So it was it's basically 12.5% people die in their sleep across the board. North America was a little higher than that.
Okay.
Dude, because we're fat, I think. But yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Good one this week. That was this week's Numero de los Muertos. All right, so let's jump into the lightning round, and the lightning round brought to us by our friends at J.C. Newman Cigar Company. They are America's oldest family-owned premium cigar maker, creators of the popular Brick House, Perla Del Mar, Diamond Crown, and the American. J.C. Newman Cigar Company operates out of their 112-year-old El Reloj cigar factory in historic Cigar City, Tampa, Florida. For more information on their cigars or their visitor experience, please visit jcnewman.com. All right, so Josh, you've had some of these lightning round questions before, so we're gonna pick through some of the newer ones that I don't think you've had. So,
let's start out strong.
Let's start with the big one.
Yeah.
No, let's just save that for last.
Okay. All right.
All right. So, Josh, if you were forced to sing, let's say you're at a cigar club one night and it's karaoke night, and you're forced to get up and sing a song in front of everybody, what's the number one song you're going to pick?
Whew, that's a tough one. I can't sing whatsoever, so I would have to do something really ridiculous. So I would probably start. I would go for like a reggaeton or a rap thing.
Yes.
Song, like a Snoop Dogg or Dre.
Yes.
Something like that, because it would just be ridiculous,
Yeah.
Get low, Little John, that would be it.
Yes.
Because no one would expect it. I can't sing. It's going to sound horrible anyway. So
I love that.
Yeah, Warren G. It was a cool.
All right, so Josh, if you could have an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life, and you can't say money or cigars, but you could have an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Unlimited supply, coffee, easy.
Love it.
I drink 8 cups a day, and I don't for some reason, like, it's not about like caffeine. I rotate regular coffee, espresso, back and forth. Like, I will probably get done with this and have a cup of coffee. Like, I don't stop at a certain point where I can fall right to sleep after I have a cup of coffee. So, to me, like, cigars and coffee, that's my favorite pairing. So
that's my second favorite answer after Luciano's.
Oh, I'm sure. What was his?
Anybody remember?
I don't remember what Luciano's answer was.
Time.
Oh, yeah. That was a good answer. But coffee is like a close second.
Coffee is a very close second.
And I'm the same with you. So my wife cannot have coffee after like 6 p.m. But I could have a triple espresso and 10 minutes later go right to sleep. And I'm one of those people that I realize I'm not bragging. I consider myself very fortunate that when my head hits the pillow, I can count backwards from 5 and be asleep before I get to 1.
It's true. It's annoying.
It's just the way I am. And
traveled with Matt.
I'm grateful for it.
I'm pissed. And it makes me angry. I'll be sitting there in bed and he's already.
We'll travel together, go to cigar events, and we're in the same hotel room. And I hit the bed and I'm out. And he's sitting there like, I can't fucking fall asleep.
I want to wake him up and shake him. Like, no, you're not ready yet.
I'm a night hawk, so whenever that happens, I just keep talking. Like, Ryan and I, we went to Smokelahoma together, and we were sharing a hotel room, and I just wouldn't stop talking until like 4 a.m. And it's like, you didn't get any sleep.
Yeah. And I can be up and like, we'll be up and really late, some nights, most nights at PCA at the trade show. And then the next morning, we're there at 6 a.m. with Zane from Blind Man's Puff and Jack and Hector from Espinosa, smoking cigars and drinking coffee at 6 a.m., even though we were up until 1 or 2 the night before.
Mm-hmm.
It's just my internal clock is, for the most part, I mean, I definitely have mornings where I sleep in, but for the most part, whether I like it or not, I'm up at 6. So,
all right, Josh, the zombies are coming. Okay. You have the opportunity to pick 3 elite members for your team from the cigar industry. Who do you pick?
Well, definitely Luciano, because he's the smart one. He would be the smart
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
I think in terms of strategy, I think he would assist with that. I would also take Glenn Loop, because I'm pretty sure he has a pretty good arsenal.
Love it.
Always a good pick.
Yeah.
To ward off the zombies. And then Rocky Patel, because if we had to battle all night, he would be up all night battling. Because at the court case, the evenings there, we through he was there before. And I always say, what'd you do this weekend? Well, I babysat Rocky Patel until 3:30 in the morning, shutting down Shelley's. And the funny thing is, like, everyone knows him, and he's like, the celebrity of Shelley's, and everyone wants to come in and get his picture. But then they're sending over drinks to our table, and I'm with Greg Zimmerman, our president, my boss. It was just the 3 of us, and we had a table full of drinks, and I'm like, we're not drinking all this. Like, there's no way. I'm cutting all of us off. We have to do some work, the next day.
Yeah.
Love it. That's a great team.
All right, so let's jump into notable smokables for this week. And as always, notable smokables brought to us by our friends at Ace Prime. Notable cigars, notable passion, notable purpose. So for this week's notable smokable, and Josh, you may remember notable smokable, we each name a cigar we smoked recently that was notable to us. Could be on the market for years, could be brand new. What did you smoke recently that kind of really caught your attention?
So I'm going to do another little bit of a reveal here, because I smoked my last one of the samples that are likely to come out in late August or September. But Alec Rubin and I are good friends. Alan has been someone who took me under his wing when I started. He's been a great mentor of mine. But I also really have gotten to know Alec and Bradley more on a social level. So I was out for the Miami Formula One race and visited their office, which every time I go to Miami or Fort Lauderdale, we'll go there. This time we actually, I don't think we drank, but we had some, Saturdays where we gone there, and definitely they do not drink low proof whiskey.
Yes.
So definitely I got to experience that. But we put together a 4x52. I wanted to do a small size from Honduras. And much like I got connected with John Adams to do the Dominican cigar, my dream was to have one from the big 3 cigar producing countries. Obviously, with El Politico, we have Nicaragua. With Ace Prime, Pichardo, and Luciano. With John Adams, we have the Dominican cigar. And with Alec Bradley, I will have the Honduran cigar. And this will be, like I said, August, September. It's a much lighter cigar. But the funny thing about this story is, like, Alec and I have been talking about this for a couple months now. I'm like, I really want to do a cigar with you. I think it would be cool. My best friend, he also really enjoys Alec Bradley cigars. We visited together there. We celebrated his 30th birthday, left his wife at a museum for 6 hours because we were having too many adult beverages at the Alec Bradley office. And this is where this kind of came together. So the 3 of us kind of collaborated, my friends from Chicago. And we're like, I want to do the cigar. I have this idea. I bought a Tommy gun recently, which I do the target shooting and that. So we named the cigar the Chicago Typewriter after the Tommy gun.
I love
and
that.
it is old school, like old school Chicago mafia scene. It'll be in 5-packs, and it's cool. And it's the background of this car scene that says Chicago Typewriter. There's an old school movie theater where, like, someone would be walking in front of it, and they'd get a hit would be called out, and someone would come with in this car with a Tommy gun. In the advertisement for the movies, it says my name, my best friend Stefan Gochev, and Alec Rubin on it. And we kind of did this, and we didn't tell Alan or Bradley until this last time that I was there for the Formula One race. And when Alan liked the cigar, he's like, damn, this is good. I was like, oh man, I wasn't involved with the blending process other than I'm like, it has to be lighter from Honduras. Alec hit it out of the park, and it's neat to see, people that are enthusiasts and, revered in the industry come together to work with an iconic brand like Luciano and Ace Prime, and also with Alec Bradley. After this, like, I don't know what's next.
Where do you go from there?
Yeah. It's a cool portfolio and a neat story with all of them.
Chicago Typewriter.
I love it. That's so cool. Very excited to see that.
So several weeks ago, I smoked a cigar, and then I got sick for a while.
You had a really bad.
And there was a cigar that I had that, and I'd had it before, but I revisited it, and it was just fantastic. Christoph 685 Woodlawn,
I haven't had one of those in forever.
And it was sitting in my humidor, and I was like, you know what? I remember this being a good cigar, and I was smoking it, and I took a picture. I sent it to Jared, and I was like, bro, this is touching me in places that I love right now. So I had meant to make that my next notable, but I was sick.
Yeah.
So a little callback from a few weeks ago, but a worthy cigar.
That's very cool. Mine was from our friends at Postani Cigars, and Mike and Mike from Cigar Hustler, and the Postania brand. I always gravitate towards the broadleaf, but I grabbed a Habano and smoked one. I smoked a Habano Postania for the first time in probably a couple of years, and I thought to myself, I just cannot sleep on the Habano blend. It's a really nice blend from them, and I always, like I said, gravitate towards the broadleaf, but that Habano of theirs is a nice blend. It was that Bellicoso size.
Oh yeah.
And very nice blend. So if you guys see that one out there, I think you should check it out. So now we have coming attractions with a new sponsor, a returning sponsor to How About That Cigar Live, and that is our friends at AJ Fernandez. Born and raised in Cuba, AJ Fernandez now produces unparalleled premium cigars in Esteli, Nicaragua. The day-to-day operations at Tabacalera AJ Fernandez are managed under the watchful eye of AJ himself in order to ensure superior quality. The AJ Fernandez portfolio of cigars provides a blend, strength, and flavor profile to match the preferences of any premium cigar consumer. Whether it's New World, Dias de Gloria, San Latano, Enclave, or Bellas Artes, you are sure to be satisfied with a premium cigar from AJ Fernandez. And we definitely have some very cool stuff coming up. So next week on the 20th, we have Ricky Rodriguez, and he has a super exciting project.
Yep.
He is starting a brand new venture called West Tampa Tobacco Company. He's a good friend of ours. We've talked to him before, and very excited to have him back on the show. And then at the end of June, we have a special Tuesday night show. So instead of the 27th, which we would normally have our show on, that's my wedding anniversary. So we're definitely not doing a show that night. We're going to do a show on the 28th, which is Tuesday night. And we're going to talk to none other than Omar de Frias from Fratello Cigars. And then not long after that, we will be at the PCA trade show, recording interviews with many of the fantastic people at the show there and learning everything we can about what's going on in the premium cigar world. Josh, if you would please give our viewers and listeners a final plug. Where's the best place for them as consumers to keep up with everything going on in the world of premium cigars and cigar advocacy?
Absolutely. Cigaraction.org is our more consumer-facing quick hit site. The premiumcigars.org, the main website for PCA, that it gets a little bit more in depth. We've been doing a lot more notations on some of the complex stuff. We're trying to distill everything down to be as easily understandable and actionable as possible. I think that right now at the immediate time frame, look at fightforflavorbands.com and take action on that. But our email and our social media will be updated with some of the new things that we're doing, and there'll be frequent updates, especially in the coming weeks in the lead up to the trade show. And then for the folks that are in the industry, can't wait to see you in Vegas. Incredibly excited. We're going to break the record this year, 87 cigars. And hopefully, Garrett, Matt, we get to enjoy one together.
Absolutely.
Yes, most definitely. We're excited for it. And Josh, we can't thank you enough for being on episode 162. And we look forward to seeing you in Vegas. And stick with us in the green room after we go off the air, just so we can say a proper goodbye. So viewers and listeners, thank you so much for being the best part of How About That Cigar Live. We thank you so much for watching live on Facebook and YouTube and for your comments and questions. We definitely appreciate that. If you guys have questions for me or Garrett, please email us on the website, howaboutthatcigar.com. Follow us on all social media at HBT Cigar. And of course, as always, burn cigars,
not bridges.
See you guys. Thanks
everybody.